Hey, Tyler's here. I'm sure many people have seen tier list videos and thought it'd be fun to do my own. Like the title of this video says, I'm doing a list of Wings of Fire characters. More specifically, I would rate them as a protagonist. So I'll be judging them as a character as a whole, how well they did as a protagonist, and my personal thoughts and opinions. They will be placed on either S tier, which is the perfect protagonist, A tier, which is an amazing protagonist, B tier, which is a great protagonist, and C tier, which is an alright or meh protagonist. Oh, and lastly, D tier, which is a bad protagonist. Instead of the basic screenshots of the character's book cover on a list, I have painted each character and we go down the list and put them in their own spot. Essentially, I will be giving a mini essay of each character and then rank them at the end and show the full list. For this video, it will be Arc 1 only, the Dragonets of Destiny. Let's start with Clay, the first and only Mudwing protagonist, at least so far. Now, as a new reader, all we know is what Clay knows. There is a war, the basic information of the dragon species of this new world, the map, and the prophecy. Having Clay as the first protagonist works, especially with his little airhead personality. We don't know anything yet, and Clay is not the basic internal monologue to inform the reader on information the protagonist supposedly already knows. This is something I don't see often with many books I read. And for me at least, it pulls me out the immersion of when reading. For example, we have learned that Morrissey is the one who made the prophecy public, and at this point, under the information, he was the seer who got a hold of this prophecy. So we have Clay being told that Morrissey is coming, and his little airhead is like, Mora who? Which is what the reader is thinking. Now we have Starflight, the appointed know-it-all, explaining that Dragonet prophecy came from him. So both Clay and the reader are on the same page of, oh, he must be important then. Now imagine Clay isn't an airhead and instead had an eternal monologue of, Morrissey, the Nightwing who delivered the prophecy and is the reason why I'm here. He is the one who determined my fate before I even hatched. To me, this is obviously just there so the reader can learn who Morrissey is. And realistically, we don't go, oh yes, Miss Simon, the head teacher of our school, whenever we hear whatever name our head teacher is, or boss, or whoever is important to know who they are. This one detail makes Clay the perfect first protagonist, but let's dig a little more. No one character can be perfect in every way, so what's his flaw? In his book, we have Clay's character arc. He thinks he is a monster because Kestrel said he is based on what he did as a hatchling. So when he meets Peril, they bond over the fact they were both born a monster. A very natural and admittedly cute bond that builds throughout the book. And I will cover her out of the blue crush when I get to her in the next tier list video. Throughout his book, Clay learns and realises he does not have to be a monster. He can shape his own way and teaches Peril that at the same time. Personally, I do feel in some areas his character arc is a little rushed, but given the time frame Tui's working with, she did the best she could, and we have a nice story out of it. So where would I rank Clay? I already went over why I love him as the very first protagonist, but the introduction of his book is not his only moment, and the other moments he has are not as strong. So yes, he does have his character arc of being brought up to believe he's a monster, but turns out he's not, because it was just a muddling thing, but to be honest, it's quite a forgettable character arc. It's a little like the "it was all a dream" trope, so it gets revolved in one sentence. Mudwing big wings help their sibs hatch so you were never a monster. It weakens why he and Peril bonded so much in such a short time, making Peril actually on her own when she felt like there was someone like her. For this I have to put Clay in B tier. Still a great protagonist, but his character arc cannot have him as an amazing one. Sorry Clay, you're one of my favourite characters, but the plot did you wrong. Book 2. Here is our sassy Sea-Wing who bites first and asks questions later. I remember reading Wings of Fire for the first time and being hooked on the mystery assassin killing all the princesses. So much so that I stayed up past midnight when I knew full well I had an English exam the next day. Somehow I got a good score on that exam though. But her book and her as a protagonist for that book can be two different things. So what is my opinion on Tsunami? Well, I'm not all that impressed. I do love Tsunami's character and her role in book 3 and 5 especially. She comes off as passive aggressive, which can be comical. But in her own book, Let's just say she's not the most logical character and her POV shows it well. Let's start with her character arc. It is a pretty decent one, of her being at the beginning of her book thinking she is entitled and acting as if the entire kingdom should bow down to her immediately. Her reaction to when most dragons didn't seem to care can be amusing, but by the end of the book, after learning of the statue and the manipulation Blister and had a quarrel, Tsunami learned that she never actually wanted to be queen, to be responsible for the kingdom, to protect the people and lay out the law to keep authority and the kingdom in good health. What Tsunami realised is that she loved the idea of being queen, to have power and be the top dog, and she saw firsthand that being on top is hard. It is a commitment that Tsunami had grown to learn that she would fail in her kingdom, and accept that she may never be queen, but that's okay. It is simple in words, but seeing Tsunami's thoughts, actions and feelings, it is a powerful message that you don't have to be number one, you can be happy with what you are. So why do I not like her as a protagonist? Well, I don't dislike her. She is a lovable character, but a bratty personality and the perspective of writing makes it seem as though we're supposed to agree with Tsunami with everything, even though she's proven to be wrong in some areas. For example, with Shark. Tsunami believed he was in the wrong for the princesses when he was not. Tsunami stuck her nose in a situation where she had no knowledge, and fought a battle she shouldn't have. She does grow throughout the book, like when she chose to try and negotiate with the guards instead of killing them to get the key to save Clay. A direct parallel from when she impulsively attacked the Skywing at the beginning of the book. There is growth, but having to sit with a bratty main character whilst the book acts like you're supposed to agree with them is not the best of experiences. Before I rank her, I have to mention the Riptide sub love plot. It does feel slapped on, and if in this book they were kept as just friends, then it would have been decent. I don't disagree with love plots, but with just one book that grows it, it feels forced, like they were meant to be in love because of plot, not because of any natural development. Same could have been said about Peril x Clay, but with them they had at least 2.5 books to it, and it's still not resolved. For Tsunami x Riptide, we get this book and one small scene in book 8 where Peril sees them as they look at each other. Very romantic. In other words, I'm very much biased with slow burn. Right, let's actually rank her. I put her in C tier. Her growth makes her not in D tier, but her bratty personality pulls her down to C. I think it's safe to say right now that a lot of you would immediately put Glory in S tier. She's the original fan favourite character, from her sassy attitude, masking her disappointment and irritation of her tribe, to pure determination for justice. She is a great character, but how does she hold up as a protagonist? We start the book with Glory holding onto a fiery hope and determination to prove to herself that everyone is wrong. Her tribe is not lazy, her tribe is not useless, and her tribe has to be strong. After all, Glory was raised outside of the culture, and she has proven to be a powerful enemy, one who practically one-shot a tyrant queen and saved her friends twice from capture. So surely her tribe is one of stealth and a powerful secret. What was that? Oh, they're all actually lazy pacifists who are so lost in their perfect little piece of life that they don't realise their own dragons have slowly gone missing? Well, at least it was amusing to see Glory react to every little detail that proved the stereotypes right. Glory is now face to face with the realisation that her tribe is full of lazy and useless dragons, and throughout the whole book she's been fighting with herself, on if she should keep fighting or just give in. Many times we see Glory feel discouraged and realise that her destiny was not meant to be so grand, and that the totally real prophecy has no reason to have a rainwing. We watch as her spirit is crushed, and as the plot moves on, Glory slowly learns what she already knew. She's not a lazy, useless dragon. Glory is a dragon worth a future, and she will carve her own way, prophecy or not. Her whole story is about how you don't have to be what everyone says you are. You can be greater and make your own way. It's another powerful character arc, and it ends with Glory challenging the most incompetent queen for the throne. She was fully ready to kill this dragon to save the ones she saw being kidnapped and practically enslaved to experiments. Turn the tribe around and to have a tribe strong and proud, accepting that the Rainwings don't have their queens killed in the challenge, and even grown to trust these dragons and that they are not all useless and in fact have advantages she does not. One challenge after another, she watches her team rise and fall until it's the very last. A tiebreaker between a dragon who clearly has a lot of experience and a young dragonette who doesn't stand much of a chance. Things are not looking so good, and Glory may have to come to a realization that she may not be able to save her dragons. Never mind, she was a princess the whole time and was given the throne on a silver platter. I just hit something. Okay, with this summary, it does sound worse than it actually is. I don't hate this character arc, like how I don't hate Clay's or Tsunami's. But they do have their flaws, and Glory being given the throne just because she was of royal blood, and not because she earned it, blood or not, does weaken the entire message, just like how Clay not actually being born a monster weakens his character arc. The entire book had Glory believing that her tribe was not what the stereotypes say, to finding out that the stereotypes are, in fact, correct. To have Glory fight internally with herself if she should keep fighting, trying to be more than what they say they are, to if she should just give up and submit to said stereotypes. To her learning her own dragons are in grave danger and need serious help, her stepping up with the cutest supporter I've ever seen in a book, Glory accepts the challenges and slowly watches as she loses to, "Oh, it's okay. You're of royal blood of my granddaughter. Please, take the throne." Okay, I'm not saying all that happened, I will admit. Granddaughter did give Glory the throne because she saw her potential, but only bothered to put a talon down and give it to her once she saw Glory was of royal blood. It still weakens the point in my eyes. Alright, time for Deathbringer. Now when I first read the books, I thought he was coming off a little too strong, but given in this book, it was said he was a dragonet as well, I didn't think too much of it, only because Glory seemed on board and did not act or feel uncomfortable, that is. Now I did say before that I preferred Slow-burn, so that does affect my opinion here, but how it started rubbed off as a little meh. But then I joined the fandom and hear some people say he was how to keep this family friendly. Creepy. So I looked into it. One Google search showed that Deathbringer was practically 20 plus years old and Glory was 17. Possibly younger. Ooh. Creepy is an understatement. That is translated in human years, which is gross. Unacceptable. And honestly I wasn't surprised since Deathbringer's first impression on me. Okay, Tui did mention that she didn't mean to make it as big of an age gap, but last I checked she hadn't edited the winglet that canonized Deathbringer to be as old as he is, so he's still technically a creep. In Arc 2, with how they both are now actually adults and similar in age, I do find them cute, but that does not make how they began any less wrong. Like in Warriors, Duskpelt x Ferncloud are cute together, but the relationship started with Duskpelt as a very much an adult warrior, and Ferncloud as very much a young apprentice. In other words, a teenager. They're cute when they're both adults, but when their relationship started, it was not okay. When talking about Glory and her book, we have to mention Deathbringer, so here's my opinion on him. Alright, where to rank Glory? Pushing past the whole Deathbringer thing. Where would I put Glory? Now I would say S tier. Glory made an amazing protagonist, but with how her character arc ended, she cannot be perfect. Her as a protagonist does have a pretty big flaw right on the end, with Grandor weakening the message you can be whoever you are, and not what others say you should be. Or in other words, you don't have to listen to stereotypes. So I can confidently put Glory in A tier, one of the better protagonists in my opinion. Now for our anxious know-it-all. I will say from the start that Starflight is one of my favourite characters. If this was a top 10 video, he'll be on it. But this isn't a top 10 video, I'm here to rank him as a protagonist. So like before, let's start with his character arc. So Starflight starts his book disoriented, having just been taken from the Nightwings and onto that island, lost, anxious and unsure of his surroundings, while also being mocked/teased by his sister. Starflight does get pushed around a lot, mostly by Morrissey, who takes Starflight, shoves him one situation, takes him out, teaches him a little bit of their culture, then takes him to meet his dad, where we meet, in my very biased opinion, one of the better love interests. Now his father's labs, here is where I personally feel his character arc truly begins. Seeing Orchid chained and experimented on, he doesn't overthink and immediately tells her that Mangrove is coming. Starflight himself then thinks why he did that, in front of Fate Speaker, and if it was the smart thing to do, but this is the first big step of his character, which in pacing goes very slowly. There are a lot that goes on in this book, with the false Dragonets of Destiny, the mini mission to the Skywings, Starflight and Fate Speaker finding the Nightwing's old treasury, but with every great series there'll always be that one part of filler, and in Wings of Fire Arc 1, this is that filler unfortunately. Now it can be fun to read, but as Starflight's character arc, it's on hold. We do get a lot of insight of how deep Starflight's crush on Sunny is, having it hinted in book 1 and 2, and then in book 3, Glory confirms that yes, he does have a crush on Sunny. But here we see Starflight helplessly pining, even dreaming of her and muttering her name in his sleep. For a Dragonet in this world, it could be cute, but taking a step back and then analysing it, oh Starflight, this is not healthy. Yes, you can feel a longing for your crush and daydreaming of them, but spending every minute of every second of the day missing her is not healthy, and please, move on. And that is all I'll be saying of Starflight x Sunny. You can honestly make a whole video about it. Moving on, once all the filler has gone by, we get to part 3, where we see the biggest jump of his character that's been going on very slowly throughout the events. How Starflight and Fate Speaker escaped the Nightwings. Starflight made a plan to use Flame and his injury to make a lie so they could escape, and the whole way there he's understandably panicking. If it all goes wrong, he's dead, but then he bit back his fear and told himself, and then use it if it's all I have. So instead of calling a non-existent authority to say to the guards, "We're on a mission, move," he made a full scene using every anxious thought he had but twisting it to sound like a different scenario, so the guards would believe him that he was sent on a last-minute mission. And it works. Honestly, you should reread it. It's both empowering and comical at the same time. Once back in the rainforest, the plot thickens and builds up to the very end of the story of Ring vs Nightwing, where Starflight is the one to say to Glory, a very new and very young queen of the Ringwings, that she should also be the queen of the Nightwings. What could go wrong? Okay, I'm being harsh, but they were negotiating quite literally in the middle of an erupting volcano. Taking time to logically think was the least of their concerns, but Starflight did it. He helped his friends, his tribe, helped rescue the Ringwings side by side with Glory, and even rescued Deathbringer. But then it's time to escape. Morrissey is the last confrontation, and it is revealed that the Nightwings had no powers, and the prophecy was fake this whole time. I remember reading this as a teenager, reading at 11 PM, instead of getting to bed for school the next morning, and being shocked at this plot twist. Great memories. But time is running out. Lava is rising, rocks are falling from the sky, time to run. With one last look at a furious Morrissey, Clay had to drag Starflight back as seething pain hits him. Now in the cold rainforest, he is blinded. So what was his character arc then? I spoke about the filler, the mission of part 3, but where would I rank Starflight as a protagonist? Well, if I am to make a guess, I say his character arc would be, it's okay and you're anxious. Not the bravest soldier, but if you can work with your issues, you can still do whatever you want. And this really does come down to the scene of escaping with Flame. But what about him as a protagonist? As much as I love Starflight as a character, he gets dragged around a lot, and is more of a camera than a protagonist. He has his moments, but nothing grand, so sitting with Tsunami, I rank Starflight in C tier. Not bad, but not great either. I remember reading The Brightest Night for the first time, and seeing Sunny's perspective legitimately shocked me, because up to this point, all the other Dragonettes had depicted her as a cinnamon bun, a childish character who was too innocent for her own good. But now we hear Sunny's thoughts, and see the world as she does, and dare I say, she's far more mature than the others. Okay, little exaggeration, I admit. But Sunny is, even at this point of the story, a mature character. Her optimism and outgoing positive personality made her seem immature and childish on the outside. But after seeing her deeper, more complex thoughts, she rationalizes every part of it. But this isn't a tier as my favourite character, so I will try and contain myself. We're here to rank her as a protagonist. So the question now is, what is her character arc? If you were to ask me, I say her character arc, not in just this book, but the full story arc as a whole, would be about maturity and self-esteem. As much as I would love to go on about how she's underrated and not what she seems, she does start the story as immature. In book 1, she, like the rest of her friends, were raised under a rock. She was oblivious to the real threat and violence of the world until Queen Starlet killed Dune in front of her. And if you were to ask me, every reaction she has when someone's being threatened or attacked could be a sign of how traumatized she is. From screaming when Webbs is attacked, covering her eyes when someone is dying, like with Whirlpool, or even just looking visibly uncomfortable when a fight is happening, could be a sign of how deep Dune's death got to her. In her own book, she admits to be still crying over Dune and Kestrel, admitting they were not the best of dragons, but believing they didn't have to die. As the book goes on, she is described to be feeling sick when Thorn kills one of the Nightwings, Prey Hunter, but then see Thorn regrets killing him, showing a little growth in who she is. Her maturity is shown through a lot of different ways. The first one being how emotionally mature she is compared to the other Dragonettes. In her book, she catches Peril trying to sneak into the Weirdling Tower to rescue Scarlet. This leads to two Skywings clashing, and Scarlet taunting Peril on her crushing play. And despite Sunny admitting to not liking Peril and being a little freaked out about her, Sunny still sympathizes with her, seeing how troubled Peril is and pushing past her own feelings of being creeped out to try and comfort her. No dragons other than Clay had made an effort to try and see Peril in her own eyes. Tsunami and Glory had clearly shown their distrust and how they admit to not fully forgiving her for her crimes as Queen Scarlet's champion. But Sunny did, which made her more emotionally mature than any other characters. So where does this put her as a protagonist? We haven't looked into her flaws yet, so what flaws does Sunny have? Losing the obsidian mirror for starts? Not too much to say there. She even admits to it not being the best idea to hide it in the sand, and then coming back to find it was gone was a sucker punch. But given the situation, she wouldn't want to be attacked in a gang den just because she had something shiny. Another flaw I could think of is her jealousy of Fate Speaker. More of a cute side plot, but whenever Fate Speaker acts close to Starflight, Sunny does get a bit jealous. Then she scolds herself because she doesn't feel that way with him in the first place. She admits that she doesn't have the right to be jealous when she doesn't love him back, which is a 2-page semi-arc, something to conclude that Sunny wouldn't take Starflight as a lover. But still cute she gets jealous. There's one more big thing I need to mention when talking about Sunny, her self-esteem. She's used the card, "I'm not worth much because I'm funny looking and stunted," to try and get it out the Nightwings. But then she feels it's the first time her own words stung her, because she lost the security blanket of "I'm funny looking because I'm destined for the prophecy." She's now aware the prophecy is fake because of Morrissey, and she loses confidence in herself. Now she knows her appearance has nothing to do with a great destiny, which does leave her feeling useless and stunted for most of the book, which can be considered a character arc here. Throughout the book she had to learn a new way to love herself again, to love herself for her, not because of some prophecy she was meant to be in. And this is shown in a realistic pacing, as by the end of the book, she defends herself against her own friends and takes control of her idea. Not letting her friends talk over her and explaining her plan, even if she already knew they would disagree with her just because, oh, she's sweet little Sunny, too innocent to understand that the world doesn't work like that. Her self-esteem can be argued that her friends make her feel worse, evidenced by the fact that she dreaded going back to them after having a chance to have things go home in her own control. But by this point, they all finally listened to her, which flooded her with a new sense of confidence that's not only healthy for her, but helped end the war. So where do I rank Sunny? S tier. She's the perfect role model, learns through trial and error on how to love herself for who she is, and sets an example on how to be mature. Sunny is the perfect protagonist to end the first arc. This is all for Arc 1, but I do plan to do Arc 2 at some point. I love to say that these are all my personal opinions and experiences. If you feel differently, let me know in the comments. I'd love to see them all. And I will admit I let my biases show for 1 or 2 characters, especially with Tsunami. It may seem like I've been trashing her a lot here, but I actually do like her as a character. Just if you would compare her as a protagonist with Sunny, there's a very clear difference in morals and perspectives. Tsunami makes a wonderful character, just not the best protagonist. That is all for the video. I hope you enjoyed it and subscribe for more, and always, have a lovely day.